Well, good morning, MACPA members. Welcome to our September town hall. All 432 of you, I think. Wow, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a member. I'm Jackie Brown. I'm the CEO at MACPA, and I know many of you may be taking a breath from that September 15th deadline, and all of us are getting ready for the weekend. And can you believe that summer's gone? And it's all a blur, isn't it? But we're here. We are here for our September town hall with a focus on our accounting ecosystem. And we're excited to be here, excited to have you here. And yeah, next slide. We are going to do what we always do, which is ask you to log into macpa.cnf.io. So you type that in your browser. Don't Google it, type it in your browser or take a picture of this QR code. It'll take you right there. And we're just going to get some insights from you. We love to start with good news, like what's really good in your life. And then we just want to know a little bit about who's in the room. Where do you work? What's your role? That kind of thing. So take a minute to do that. And while you're doing that, I'll just keep talking and come back to those results and tell you what we're all about. Next slide, we talk about this all the time. This is what MACPA does. That's why our team is here for you. That's why our volunteer leaders are here for you to connect, protect, and achieve. Sort of summarizes our whole focus. Leading and transforming the profession in Maryland, making a positive impact and helping a CPA-led profession achieve success. That's why we're here, and that's hopefully why you're here too. Next slide is just a quick look at our leadership, our volunteer leadership, MACPA's board of directors that started July 1st. An amazing group of leaders. Lexi Kessler is our chair this year. Vice chair is Herb Geary. Lexi's with Aronson, so a larger firm. Herb Geary's a smaller firm on the Eastern Shore. Christine Aspel, KPMG. And then our past chair, Avonette Blanding, is the CFO. And then some new board members here representing the whole diversity of the profession. So representing you and every area where you work as well. Next slide. This is something we kicked off in July. We built this actually together with our board of directors and our MACPA leadership team. It's our promise to you as members of MACPA. And as I know, you're all reimagining your organizations too in this challenging time. We're doing the same at MACPA, and we call it MACPA 3.0. We're providing community. This town hall group, we consider a community of members, resources, and that's really what this town hall is all about. How can we keep providing resources? We're on the lookout, looking out at trends for you, and then finding resources and providers to give you solutions and help you manage through those trends. Professional development. Obviously, this is complimentary CPE, and we know you all appreciate that, and we're happy to provide it around things that matter. And then advocacy, what we're doing to protect your license and protect your businesses. That's our purpose, our values, and our focus. And we're glad to be here with you to do that. And then the next slide, this is our staff team, our leadership team at MACPA. And today, Bill Sheridan, who's our Chief Communications Officer, is going to lead this town hall for us and talk about the trends that he's seeing, that we're seeing, that you're telling us about too. And in our communities of interest on Connect, you're telling us what you're seeing, and you're asking us to find resources. And so that's really what this town hall is all about, looking at the trends, finding out what we might be missing, and asking you to tell us what's most important to you. Next slide, we always like to thank our 100% member firms and organizations. If you're a part of an organization that's not 100%, if you don't see your name, I know they're getting really small because we have so many, we'd love to include you on those lists. So you would reach out to Rebecca Brown if you're interested in that. We'd be most appreciated. And then next slide is just our MACPA champions. These are firms and organizations that have designated one person in their firm to kind of be the liaison to their teams and MACPA, so that the members of your organizations get the most benefit from MACPA and get connected in ways that they maybe couldn't do as an individual. So we really appreciate each of these leaders and what they're doing. If you want to be one of these leaders or champions for your firm, again, I'll just ask you to reach out to Rebecca and she can do that. I am going to take a peek, Bill, at our polls and see what's good in your life. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I loved whoever put the first one in. We had people answering these polls before it even got in, which is awesome. And they said MACPA membership. Thank you for making our day. That's awesome. I love to see family and celebrating friends over the weekend. Walking around the beautiful College Park campus. That is a beautiful campus. Today it's a little rainy out here, but maybe this weekend we'll have some chance to get out and walk and do that. Friends, family, health, retired and having a great time. I saw one retired and grandchildren, new granddaughter, my family, brand new year. Every day is a brand new day and a brand new year, right? Let me see what else I see here. Oh, these are all so great. Still doing well, working remotely. Me too. Traveling, getting to do a little bit of that. Daughter visiting, good health. Yeah.
There's another a fellow Grateful Dead fan on there. I see the Dead are back on tour. So I don't have tickets, but I wish I did. So enjoy that show. Yeah.
That's awesome. And football. I saw somebody talk about football. Yep. It's that time of year for NFL. I'm a bigger college football fan than I am NFL, but I watch both. And yes, the kids are back in school. I just put my granddaughter on the bus with her little mask on, which hurts my heart. But yep, all good things happening. And then where do we work? Let's see what we've got here. Private company. So the biggest percentage of our attendees today are with a private company, sole practitioner, government, not-for-profit. Like, I love how this is really just a picture of our whole membership and connects to our board too. Public accounting. So we have the whole spectrum of all the different ways that you're working, and then positions. Senior management is the biggest one. Supervisor, C-suite. This is great. I think you're all going to find this this town hall really interesting, and hopefully, again, our goal is to provide you resources and to manage through the trends that we talk about. I'm going to turn this over to Bill. This next slide you're going to see, you see every time, but he's going to talk a little bit differently about it today and go a little bit deeper. That will hopefully be helpful to you. Bill Sheridan, our Chief Communications Officer.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Yep. So as Jackie said, this is normally where we would take a brief look at our accounting ecosystem and the preferred providers that we partner with. But today's meeting is all about the ecosystem and our preferred providers. So, we introduce these folks to you at each meeting, but we've never really told you exactly why we're partnering with them and what they do that's so important to our profession. So that's what today is all about. I toyed with a couple of different ways to approach this, but here's what I kind of settled on. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction to each of our preferred providers. And I mean brief. Each one has a slide here. I'm not going to go through each slide. You'll get the slides later today and you can read through them at your leisure, but I want to give you a brief introduction to each of them. Quick introduction, and then we're going to dive into each section of our current ecosystem, the trends we're seeing, why we think they're important for you and your clients, and which of our preferred providers kind of offer solutions and resources that might be helpful to you in each of one of these trends. And there's a lot to get through here and just a very little bit of time. So we're going to jump right in. Before I do, I want to say there are a couple other questions in Conferences IO related to the ecosystem. The last couple, I think we've unlocked them. We're curious what you think about what's missing from the ecosystem, right? So this is what we currently have, but what areas should we have? And we would love to hear your suggestions about how to flesh out this ecosystem a little bit more and address some of the issues that you're seeing. So please offer those suggestions. And as always, you can offer some of those suggestions in our social Q&A as well. So with that, a quick introduction to our preferred providers. We're going to start with Aon. and the AICPA member insurance programs, very important. Next up, Accountants World. And these folks are experts on client accounting services, among many other areas. We also have ADP with payroll, outsourced HR, R&D tax credits, insurance, retirement planning, etc. Then the fine folks at Avalara with tax compliance solutions. We also are proud partners with BotKeeper, who specialize in automated bookkeeping solutions. And then there is BiteCheck, and they offer solutions and resources with regard to SOC 2 and cybersecurity assessments. I love that tagline, by the way, making compliance suck less. So way to go, BiteCheck. CPA.com, the technology arm of AICPA. They offer just a ton of solutions. Most recently, their brand new .cpa domains. We're also partners with CPA Charge, and they specialize in online payments. Moving on to Intuit, with just a ton of professional tax and accounting services. MindBridge, a great partner here with regard to bringing artificial intelligence to the audit function. Fantastic solutions there. Next up, Oracle NetSuite, which remains really one of the fastest growing financial management platforms in the world. So we're happy to partner with them. We also are partners with Profix with their host of corporate performance management solutions. Next up, SafeSend with solutions centered around automated processes. We also have Sage, who are among the leaders in cutting edge accounting software. And then finally, Xero, that's cloud-based accounting software that's simple, smart, and beautiful. I love that tagline as well. So that's a very quick introduction to our preferred providers. Again, these slides will be made available to you after the meeting today, and you're welcome to read through and contact any of them as you would like. But now what I'd really like to do is kind of walk through the ecosystem section by section, right? And these are really kind of the trends that we're seeing around the profession and the partners who can offer some resources and solutions with regard to those trends. So let's take a quick look here, starting out with cloud computing. And this seems like a natural place to start, right? Y'all should be pretty familiar with the notion of cloud computing by now. And yeah, I mean, we find references to cloud computing going back to like the mid-90s, actually, believe it or not, but it really didn't start to gain momentum until, I don't know, 2006 or so. I mean, simply put, we would have had trouble surviving over the past couple of years, right? Without the cloud. I mean, think about it. Think about how we stay in touch now and how we manage our remote teams and how we serve clients in this remote and hybrid environment. I mean, talk about making that switch really, really fast. We had to do that about a year and a half ago, right? We've been begging folks in our profession to embrace the cloud for more than a decade, but I guess all it took was one little pandemic to kind of get everybody there, and it impacts every single aspect of what we do now, right? In all segments of the profession. There was a study in January 2020. This was before the pandemic. They found that 88% of respondents said that they use the cloud in one form or another, and that most expected their cloud usage to grow over the next year. And that was before the pandemic, right? And then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, everybody was there, right? And all signs now point to the fact that we just won't be going back to work the way we used to. At least many of our employees are hoping that we don't. This is from Box.com, a survey that they've done recently. Take a look at the finance and auditing area right there in the middle. 55% of employees say that they have worked remotely, and 91% say that they want to, right? So, and you probably run into a bit of this with varying degrees with your own clients and employees and customers as well. So the cat's out of the bag with this remote work stuff, and we've figured out, right, that work isn't about where we are now. It's about getting stuff done no matter where we are. I think that's the point. So, and the cloud is making that happen in greater and greater droves going forward. So, and we've got a number of preferred providers who offer some really great solutions, some resources and advice in the cloud accounting space. So these are the folks that you should reach out to if you have questions or are looking for some resources or solutions with regard to cloud accounting. We've got ADP, CPA.com, Profix, Avalara, Xero, Intuit, Sage, BotKeeper, Oracle NetSuite, and Accountants World are all kind of working in this space. So they're the experts when it comes to cloud accounting. So keep them in mind as you're looking for solutions and resources related to how you can take advantage of this trend going forward. Next up on the ecosystem, practice management and distributed workflow. So I guess sometimes the fastest way to grow is to kind of slow things down a little, right? Gain some clarity about your processes and workflows. Too often there is no process, right? Process might be the most neglected factor in business, really. I mean, it's hard, right? This whole process question, it's messy. Nobody likes documenting these things. Nobody likes teaching them or holding people accountable for following these processes. But when you get, when you get it right, man, that your organization just starts firing on all cylinders because there's no ambiguity about what needs to be done and when. Everything's kind of crystal clear. You've got consistency and more importantly, scalability, ease of management, more peace for you, hopefully more profitability. These are all things that we're all looking for, right? And there are folks out there who will do this stuff for you, who will automate your workflows and unite your team with kind of collaborative tools, collaboration, one of those future-ready skill sets that we've been talking about more and more, that we're going to have to layer on top of those kind of technical skills that we all need to move and grow going forward. These folks will give you an absolute pulse on what's happening with every job and deliver really kind of exceptional client work, which means greater client satisfaction. There are solutions out there that will automate the entire time and billing process, even handling work in progress billing. All of this is designed to kind of give you that pulse on what's going on and to help you establish those processes and make sure that there is that clarity, that consistency, that efficiency within your organization that's going to allow you to kind of scale and grow going forward. So we are partnering with a few folks who offer solutions in that area as well. CPA.com, Xero, Profix, BotKeeper, Accountants World, all folks offering solutions, resources, advice when it comes to practice management and distributed workflow. So moving on, down the ecosystem we go. We're moving on to practice suites now. So imagine working with one partner who can kind of deliver things like cloud finance and accounting solutions and billing management and revenue recognition management and financial planning and financial reporting and global accounting consolidation, risk, government risk, compliance solutions, all of that kind of bundled in one. I mean, there's a whole lot of expertise in there that's really hard for any one of us to kind of wrangle at any given time. And to have all of that in one area can really help us move and grow going forward. So, I mean, how hard it is these days to kind of stay compliant with, all the new regulations and standards being thrown at us. That's one of the 3 hard trends that Daniel Burris talks about, the things that are going to happen whether we like it or not, right? Regulation and legislation coming at us in greater numbers and more impactful than ever before. A good practice suite will help you kind of stay on top of all of that. They'll also help you better understand your data and provide real-time metrics and role-based dashboards. So all of that is kind of baked into this notion of practice suites and what these things can help you do going forward, right? And the folks at Oracle, NetSuite, and Intuit are kind of experts in this area and offer solutions and resources that can really help you take advantage of this notion of a practice suite and what it can do for you. So keep those folks in mind. Moving on to, okay, the big one, right? OCR, that's optical character recognition for those of you scoring at home, right? I had to look it up myself. Data entry and AI automation. And I know what you're thinking, optical what, right? Optical character recognition, OCR, it's simply technologies that convert different digital documents like PDFs and images and others into editable and searchable text, right? So taking something that's static and making it more dynamic. So what are we, what we're talking about here really is technology that's driven by artificial intelligence that will reduce or, flat out eliminate things like data entry. And if you've ever spent a lot of time manually coding things like receipts and checks and invoices, this is kind of your hallelujah moment, right? Because there's going to, this kind of stuff is going to free you up to do more of that value added work for your clients and firms, things that we've been begging folks in this profession to take a closer look at going forward. These are the skills that are going to keep us relevant as we move forward in this ever-changing environment that we're working at, right? So, there was a lot of angst over these types of technologies a few years ago. People were worried about these technologies would be taking their jobs, right? And now I think we've kind of stepped back from that and we're realizing that it's more of a yes and type of thing. We can use these technologies to take a lot of frustrating type of work off our plates and let us focus on things that provide even greater value. So that's the magic of things like OCR and AI automation, right? And not things to be scared about. And as we embrace this stuff, it simply means that we're going to have to learn a whole lot of new skills in order to add that greater value, right? There's a lot of communication baked into here. There's a lot of anticipation, collaboration, as I said, strategic and critical thinking, influencing and negotiation. These are the types of skill sets that we're going to need to master going forward in order to add that kind of greater value, right? Before, we used to spend more man hours and time on these manual processes, task management, transactional expertise, and now the field has been flipped, right? And we're spending less and less time on those types of things because of these technologies, which allows us to spend more and more time on the real important stuff that's going to add greater value going forward. So that's the idea behind this notion of AI automation. It's just freeing us up to do that really critical work. And we are partnering with a couple of, actually more than a couple of folks who offer some really great resources and solutions when it comes to this type of automation. You might want to keep in mind the folks at Intuit, also BotKeeper, Oracle, NetSuite, and others. They're offering some really great solutions when it comes to this notion of OCR and data entry and AI automation. All right, moving on to SOC 2 and cybersecurity assessments, kind of a niche area here, but hugely important, right? If you're paying attention to the news, you know what a huge issue cybersecurity is these days. I think this one was just recently. You might have heard about an insurance and financial company, a big one, really, one of the biggest ones in the country that had to pay back $40 million earlier this year just to regain control of its network and data after a ransomware attack. Somebody swooped in and took control of their stuff and said, hey, if you fork over 40 million, you can have it back. And this kind of stuff, it's scary, it's frightening, and it's happening with more and more frequency. So, cybersecurity is a hugely important area with regard to the profession these days. And this also has huge implications for folks like auditors, partners, cloud security advisors, right on down to SOC 2 engagements. So, and luckily we're partnering with some folks who are focused on this really critical area. The folks at BiteCheck are doing some really great work in this area. The leadership team at BiteCheck actually helped develop the 2018 version of the AICPA SOC 2 guide. And they have also developed numerous trainings for the AICPA. So really good folks to know in this area of SOC 2 and cybersecurity assessments if you're looking for some guidance in that area. Next up, AI auditing, right? So we talk about a little bit about automation. Artificial intelligence is doing a lot more than the tedious kind of repetitive number crunching that we all hate. It's also transforming that audit function, right? And I mean, here's just one example. What if you didn't have to audit by sample, right? What if you could review the entire ledger in every single transaction and do it in less time? And AI can be trained to do the tedious part of the audit job and at scale. So really important stuff here. And when we talk about exponentials, we always like to talk about Moore's law, right? The idea that the power of computers doubles roughly 18 to 24 months, Moore's law, and that law is in place today, right? It started in the mid-1960s. It continues to this day. But when we talk about artificial intelligence, the exponentials behind AI put Moore's law really to shame. I think Stanford University it came out with a report not too long ago that estimated that the speed of AI computation doubles every 3 months, all right? Moore's law every 2 years. AI is currently doubling every 3 months. That is kind of head spinning, isn't it? Our AIs are getting twice as smart every 3 months, and that's going to undoubtedly have implications on what we do almost in every area, and certainly in the audit function. It's changing almost right before our eyes. And luckily, we have some preferred providers with a lot of experience, some great solutions in this area. We're talking about folks from BiteCheck, CPA.com, MindBridge certainly are folks that you can turn to for advice and suggestions when it comes to using AI in auditing. So keep them in mind. All right, we are up to tax and sales tax, right? Always a huge topic. I don't think I'm telling you anything new here, right? There's a new report. I think I just saw this in Accounting Today. It shows that although state sales tax rates have not really risen during the pandemic, new local rates like city and district sales taxes have risen really rapidly for the first half of this year. For example, in the first 6 months of 2021, there were 127 new geographic district sales taxes, up from 88 in the first 6 months of 2020. And this trend continued in July of this year. 36 new district taxes enacted in July alone, right? Many new city sales taxes were also enacted. 23 new city taxes going into effect for the first 6 months of this year. City sales tax rate changes also rose sharply in July. 54 city rate changes, up from 32. The average up 32 from the average of 22 per month for the first 6 months of the year. So a lot going on in the sales tax arena, especially at the local level. There's a lot to kind of digest and keep ahead of. And it's really hard to do that when this stuff is happening so quickly. So we're partnering with folks like the people at Avalara, who really kind of have their fingers on the pulse of all things related to sales tax. They can offer you some terrific compliance solutions, as well as suggestions, resources, all related to this really critical area of our profession. Next on the ecosystem, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and expense management. A lot of trends impacting these areas lately. The work from home movement, automation and advances in technology, the increasing use of gig and fractional workers, right? The push for increased frequency of reporting. All of this is adding really a good bit of complexity to the AP/AR function, right? So a lot to keep up with here. And the folks at MindBridge are keeping their fingers kind of on the pulse of all that's happening there. They've got some great solutions and resources that can really help you out in that area as well. All right, next up in the ecosystem, data analytics, right? So again, just another huge area for the profession. Collecting data isn't really where it's at anymore, just collecting it, right? I mean, we're drowning in data. Today, we got to make sense of it and tell the stories behind the numbers that will help our clients, better understand their businesses. Here's an example of how important this is, right? This is a quote from IMA Research, the IMA Research Foundation, board member there by the name of Kip Crumwide. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But anyway, IMA just released a report on this, and he said companies have been able to use past data to help them forecast trends for the future, but with the much more competitive global marketplace today, and then the pandemic on top of that, historical data is often not very predictive because things have just simply been changing a lot, right? So now this idea of predictive analytics is more important than ever, combined with knowledge of business and scenario planning. These things are becoming ever more critical going forward, being able to use predictive analytics rather than falling back on just historical data, and being able to tell those numbers in a way that our clients understand and can really help them see the potential behind their businesses moving forward, right? So we got partners in this area as well. MindBridge, once again, the folks at ADP, all kind of working in this area of data analytics. And yeah, so reach out to them, look for some solutions, some resources, some suggestions and advice in this area of data analytics as well. All right, risk management. There's a lot of risk out there these days, am I right? I mean, you just need to look around at what's been happening the last year and a half to know that. But there's more than just the pandemic and whatever other unknowns are lurking out there, right, to talk about here. Financial risks, human risk, environmental and physical risks. All of these things are wreaking havoc kind of on the way we do work and live our lives these days. Losses on investments, that's another one. Product or service liability, employee liability. I mean, the list goes on. There's more risk out there than ever before. And they used to say that just stepping out the door in the morning was a risk, right? Now you don't even have to do that. Just waking up is probably risk enough. So being able to manage these things really, really well and stay on top of them, becoming ever more important than ever before. The folks at Aon and BiteCheck are right there with a lot of great solutions, resources, suggestions, and advice when it comes to managing all of these really critical risks that we're facing, and new ones coming down the road as we speak, right? So just some fantastic resources from these folks that can kind of help in this area. All right, payroll, benefits, human resources. Man, talk about a critical area. I interviewed leadership expert Tom Peters a couple of times over the past couple of years. And he first of all, he hates the phrase human resources, right? You get him going on this notion of human resources. And he will look you right in the eye and he say, hey, my name is Tom Peters. I am not a human resource, okay? I am a human being. So he hates that phrase human resources, but he loves the notion, right, that your people have to come first. It's more critical than ever. He calls this kind of extreme humanism, right? And again, more important now during this COVID age, really, than ever before, when we're all kind of physically distanced and remote working and all that, being able to stay connected and stay grounded with your people, a more important notion than ever before. And he says, actually, Tom Peters says, there are 7 things that we need to do today during this pandemic that are more critically important than almost anything else that we could do. So I'm going to run through that list real quick because I just love this list. Okay, 7 things that we have to do during the pandemic today as leaders. Number 1, be kind. Number 2, be caring. Number 3, be patient. Number 4, be forgiving. Number 5, be present. Active listening, right? Number 6, be positive. And number 7, walk in the other person's shoes. A little empathy tossed in there as well. Extreme humanism, that's what he calls it, right? It's more critical than ever. I love the notion that we are, as much as we talk about technological advances and how that's turning our world on its head and making our world really, really chaotic these days, as much as we're talking about things like AI and machine learning, blockchain, all the others, the skills that we're going to need going forward in order to remain relevant to our clients or customers are not related to these technologies. Not all of them. The really important ones, our future ready skills, are really human skills, right? That brings us closer to one another: collaboration, communication, anticipation, strategic and critical thinking. These types of things are the future ready skills that are going to keep us relevant going forward. And so I just love that. It's really kind of a paradox for the world that we live in, right? Really interesting kind of thoughts there from Tom Peters. And it kind of woke me up and said, you know what, it's really people that are going to drive our success going forward, not necessarily technologies, right? And all of this conversation, it just kind of walks right into this part of the ecosystem when we're talking about our people and how we better serve them, right? These types of solutions are more critical than ever before, especially given the environment in which we're working nowadays: payroll, benefits, human resources, just serving our people better, right? And we've got some partners that we've been working with for a while now who offer resources and solutions regarding this type of area, right? The folks at ADP and Accountants World, they got you covered when it comes to solutions related to these things and all the other ways in which we better serve our people and can start practicing a little more extreme humanism, right, going forward. And really, what's more important than that? Right? All right, digital payments, number 12. In a digital kind of mobile world, we ought to be taking digital mobile payments, don't you think? It just seems to make sense. And more of us are doing just that, right? The digital payments market it's set to grow globally at about 19.4% between 2021 and 2028. So the really expansive growth with companies like Apple and Venmo and Square kind of leading the way. And this is all due in part to the high adoption rates of smartphones. Of course, we're all carrying around these miraculous little supercomputers in our pockets. The rise in e-commerce sales, the explosion in internet activities across the globe, and there's just a lot of benefits for making this move too. Security is certainly one, but control, visibility, there's certainly less manual work when you can start taking these payments digitally. Ease of use, great benefits for thinking about digital payments going forward, just to name a few. So that's why we're partnering with the folks at CPA Charge, right? They're kind of leading the way in the digital payment space for this profession, right? They're doing this specifically within the accounting and finance area, and that's why we're partnering with them. So they've got some really terrific solutions and resources that are available when it comes to this notion of digital payments. Corporate performance management, sort of an umbrella term really that describes the methodologies and metrics and processes and systems that we use to monitor and manage the business performance of an organization. Really, that's what it comes down to. Applications that enable CPM really kind of translate what's normally strategically focused information into operational plans, right? So adding a little bit of traction to your vision, in other words, right? And then sending aggregated results. So that's what CPM is all about. I'm putting on my EOS hat now, but when we talk about, we're all great at coming up with great visions, right? Where we want to go, coming up with fantastic strategic plans about what we want to accomplish, but that's all that is just pie in the sky unless we can execute on it, right? Vision without traction is hallucination. It doesn't exist. So I think that's kind of what this notion of CPM is all about, kind of translating those strategically focused data pieces into actual operational plans, and how can we actually achieve that strategy going forward. And the folks at Profix, right? Nobody does this better than them. They've got some fantastic solutions and resources available in this CPA space that can really help you add a little bit more of that traction to your already fantastic visions and strategies that you've come up with. And then finally, we're kind of wrapping up our ecosystem here with e-sign automation. All right, so thanks to growing requirements for smooth kind of digital transaction management and user authentication, the demand for digital signatures, it's really kind of exploding lately. I can't tell. I've almost lost count of the number of different contracts and pieces of legalese that I've had to sign digitally lately. It's really kind of exploded in a big way in the recent times, and the increasing acceptance really of online transactions and payment procedures, and of course the surging kind of digitization rate. That these are all things that are driving demand for these digital signatures, right? Again, it's that exponential pace of change, and this stuff is not going to slow down. So this notion of digital signatures is something I think that we all could benefit from becoming a little bit more comfortable with. And really the pandemic, when you think about it, has kind of helped drive some of that growth as well. The growth of the digital signature market increased significantly from 2019 to 2020, and then the trend has just really continued on an almost exponential pace from 2020 right up until now. So due to the growing requirement for online transactions, secure connectivity, kind of the rising popularity of remote work, again, we're all kind of out there doing our own thing in our own spaces. So this notion of getting signatures digitally becoming way more popular, certainly, and way more important, and kind of expanding by leaps and bounds. And right there on the cutting edge of this expansion are the folks with SafeSend. That's why we're partnering with them. They can kind of help speed up manual, labor-intensive tasks at every client touch point in the tax engagement lifecycle through this notion of e-sign automation. So be sure to check them out as well. So that's a quick kind of dive into our current ecosystem as it currently stands, and the providers who are offering resources and solutions in each one of those spaces. As I said earlier, and I kind of walked through who our preferred providers were at the beginning, all those slides are going to be available to you later today so that you can read up in depth about what each one of these providers might be able to offer you. If you have any specific questions, maybe a great kind of warehouse for storing those questions might be our own sponsorship team, right? Amy Puente, she's our sponsorship and advertising manager. Chrislyn Soljak, sponsorship and advertising coordinator. They would love to hear from you, to hear what kind of issues you are dealing with, and what kind of solutions you're looking for. Really, I think they would tell you that these preferred providers that we're working with here, this is not a sales pitch in any way, shape, or form. These preferred providers desperately want to help people in this profession and their clients. They really do. They've got some really important resources and solutions that can help us kind of navigate the changes that we're dealing with these days, and that's why we're working with them. So, all that said, if you have any specific questions about any of the parts of the ecosystem or any of the preferred providers that we've talked about today, feel free to contact our sponsorship team at sponsorship@macpa is the email address, and they will be sure to get back in touch with you with answers going forward. So,
well, I just want to jump right back in and
yeah,
hold
please,
that our community of CPAs are answering here, telling us what's missing is really interesting. I know you've been so busy talking, you probably haven't seen it.
I'm diving in now, and
yeah,
this was half the fun about this thing for us, right? Because we kind of created this ecosystem based on what we're seeing and the partners that we're working with. But just recently, the question has come up. It's like, what are we missing?
Yeah.
How can we add to this ecosystem and provide more resources to help? Because there's a million, new issues are coming up every single day, and it's really hard to keep in touch, keep on top of all of that. So we wanted to ask you what issues you're dealing with and what you'd like to see there. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot in here about staffing, and we're definitely working on some resources having to do with that, including outsourcing. A lot of organizations are outsourcing some of their work, so we're looking for a resource there. Recruitment, of course, a lot of things around talent. Somebody said project management, which is a super idea. Some of the providers we've talked about have that built in, but we'll look into other more general project management systems. We actually use one at MACPA called Asana that keeps us on track really well. Bill, somebody said something about LinkedIn, and Bill Sheridan does an amazing sort of 101 session is what they asked, but I bet we could get Bill to do that for you all, because more and more that's your brand, that's out there, and Bill's excellent at that. So we will add that to our list there. RPA, and we have a lot of providers that have that also built in. BotKeeper is an example that I can think of, but there's more. Online payments. Bill talked about CPA charge, but we can look for more on the corporate side. Someone else made a comment in there about we talk a lot about firms and apologies, and we have a ton of resources for corporate, and we do need to change our language and get better at that. But most of these have a relevance and around that. So we thank you for pointing that out. Retirement, I think that's a great idea. Retirement, yes, I'm going to add that to my. Don't we all feel like that sometimes? Oh my gosh,
absolutely.
Cyber.
There's another one in here, Jackie, that I loved, and that I just kind of thought, actually a couple of them, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I would love to find a partner that we could work with in this area, because it is it's so big right now, and it's gaining traction as we speak. So that would be something I think that we'll be looking at. Also, ESG, the whole sustainability area is big and getting bigger. So again, these are great suggestions, and certainly things that we're going to be looking at as we look to expand that ecosystem.
Yeah. I love that someone put DEI in there. We have training. We also, that is a huge focus of the MACPA Foundation, which you're going to hear a lot more about in the days ahead. We've been doing these candid conversation series around that. We're going to be partnering actually with the Colorado Society of CPAs. They've been doing a great series. It's called See Me. You're going to be hearing more about that too. So we're working on that. But like Bill said, keep it coming more. Your ideas are incredible and encouraging and helpful. So thank you.
And my favorite answer in terms of what to add to the ecosystem, wine. So we'll be looking into that as well.
Yes.
I think probably later this afternoon.
MACPA Wine Club. Got it. Got it.
No, really great suggestions. Thank you all for those. We're going to be looking at those answers very, very closely. We're getting close on time. I want to run through a few things here at the end, just as reminders of some really important stuff that's coming up. I'm going to get back to my slide deck there. The CPA Summit coming up on October 22nd. You're going to actually be able to hear some of the thought leaders from our preferred providers speaking in person about these trends, the importance of these trends, the impact that it's having on the profession and you and your clients as well. So that's an event that you will definitely not want to miss, particularly because Tom Peters, I mentioned him earlier, we actually nailed down Tom Peters as our keynote speaker for the CPA Summit, which is fantastic. You're going to love this guy. His father was an accountant, by the way, and he was born and raised in Baltimore. So he speaks our language, folks, and he's a great person to talk to or to listen to in terms of this notion of extreme humanism. And as a special bonus, everyone who attends the summit will receive a free copy of Tom Peters' latest book, which is called Excellence Now. I had to look at it. It's over on my bookshelf right there. Excellence Now, Extreme Humanism. Fantastic. There are rumors that it might be signed. I can't promise that, but it's a possibility. So anyway, don't miss the summit. As you can see there, complimentary CPE for MACPA members. So that's coming up on October 22nd. You won't want to miss that. It's never too early to start talking about CPA Day, right? The 2020 version of CPA Day is going to be held January 20th, I believe is the right date for that. For the second straight year, it will be a virtual event. We would much rather have you all with us live and in person in Annapolis. But, you know, COVID, because of the COVID, I've got a friend who has a little daughter, and anytime that they can't do anything, she looks up at her mom and she says, "Is it because of the COVID?" Yes, it's because of the COVID, but and the related protocols from the General Assembly that are keeping us from doing that. But the good news about virtual is hopefully there will be no excuses for you all to join us. We had more than 500 members join us online for CPA Day earlier this year, and we're hoping for more than that this coming January. So save that date. You can get details and register on our website. And don't forget to support our political action committee, right? Through your contributions, our PAC, just able to work toward more favorable outcomes on legislative issues in Annapolis that affect you and your clients. Giving to the PAC, easier than ever before. We talked about this whole notion of digital payments and all of that type of thing. We've kind of joined that movement now. You can give in seconds right from your phone. You can go to givebutter.com/MACPA-PAC, or you can just scan that QR code there. You'll be taken straight to a page where you can donate easily. You can also text your donations to MACPA-PAC at that number there, 202-858-1233. As always, your support and contributions are greatly appreciated. You want to talk through the MACPA Foundation a little bit, Jackie?
Yeah, I'd love to.
About what we're doing here.
Yep. So I mentioned it when someone suggested diversity, equity, inclusion resources. The foundation has been restructured. We've had it for years. We've had it since actually the 150-hour requirement in order to give scholarships to students. But obviously, the importance to the entire profession in terms of a pipeline of diverse and trained talent is most important. Creating mentorship opportunities for these young professionals, for all professionals, diversity, still doing scholarships, but you're going to be seeing a lot more about it. We're redoing our webpage and giving opportunities for organizations to join and individuals too, and recognizing as you support it. So more coming, but we're renewing our commitment to the future of the CPA profession as part of 3.0.
Awesome. And then just a selfish plug on my part, but also this is good stuff from the MACPA. We have a podcast. We've had a weekly podcast now for the last, we're going on, I think it's been more than 3 years now. It's called Future Proof. Just offering some insights and ideas from some top thought leaders out there about how you can kind of future-proof your career going forward. What do we need to do to kind of stay relevant? And it is available, as they say, wherever you get your podcasts. So Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all those great places. New episodes drop pretty much every Monday. Occasionally we'll miss one here and there just due to life, you know, but we got a new one coming out next week. Actually, a great conversation with the outgoing president of UMBC, Dr. Freeman Habrowski, and Kimberly Allison-Taylor will be on that one. So be sure to subscribe to Future Proof, some great conversations that are really kind of insightful and thought-provoking. So,
yeah, Bill's podcast also is on the MACPA website, so easy, and he will often turn those into blog posts that are quick, easy, digestible reads, but he's our lookout post, and that's what this whole session was all about. He's seeing trends, and along with our team, Amy and Chrislyn, we're looking for resources to help you all manage those trends. But I would like to give you all a gift today. I would like to give you all the gift of time, because we have finished 6 minutes early. You got your CPE. I hope you found it helpful and useful. Bill, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next month at the summit. That's our town hall for next month. So Tom Peters Summit, we'll see you there. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.